Good Friday afternoon. Hello, I wanted to make a quick video where I showcase a discussion topic that has been amazing on Fun Forum. The discussion topic is about teaching programming to children and to teachers that have no prior experience with teaching programming specifically. Fun Forum is a discussion forum that is normally private for patrons of Fun Function, but recently, me and the moderators have felt that some threads are just amazing, so we are going to make them public and put them in a special spotlight category, which makes them accessible to everyone that watches Fun Function. And we also decided that, hey, MPJs should do a video showcasing how great these threads are and how awesome our members are that participate in these threads. Topics, they're called topics in Discourse. Keep saying that. In my old forum days, everything was called threads in vBulletin and stuff. Oh, vBulletin. It was such a dreadful piece of software, but it still makes me feel good. Nostalgia. All right, let's jump to the thread here on Fun Forum. I just want to give you some highlights. I've linked the thread in the topic in the episode description. So Stefan here asked that I am by no means a rock star or programmer, but I have heard on many occasions that I do have an ability to explain complicated matters in a simple and easy to understand terms. In order to grow as a developer and as a person, I've decided to take some time off in the evenings and set up an introductory course to programming with JavaScript. And the school I was talking to was very enthusiastic. Apparently, as of next year, programming will be included in the curriculum for all schools across Sweden. And they offered me the opportunity to introduce it to children and their teachers, which is a very interesting challenge. So this is actually super interesting. I've been thinking a lot about this myself, with me being in Sweden, and it's such a big opportunity and such a big impact that it has been decided and mandated that programming should be taught in schools. But of course this presents a huge challenge in the sense that how do we teach children programming? Traditionally, programming is something that we're used to teaching to adults that know about math and computer science, and or maybe they don't, but you know, you get the drill. Like, how do we teach this to a small child? And also, how can we also fashion this in a systematic fashion in teaching? How do we teach teachers how to teach programming if teachers have no prior experience in programming? There are some really interesting insights in this discussion topic. Stefan talks about how you approach a complex problem, teaching a complex problem by breaking it into simpler parts, which is something that I spend a lot of my time doing. I just take like, oh my god, this very overwhelming complex problem, and just what are the essentials of this problem? Can we isolate them and attack them one by one? That is one of the fundamentals of what I do with Fun Function. Erik Norland points out that you don't have to be a rock star developer in order to teach others. And I think this is extremely important. It's so easy to think that you must be like very successful or have a very long track record in order to have the authority of teaching programming. But in my experience, teaching is my primary way of learning because it forces me to really make sure that I understand the concept. So it's kind of like teaching is kind of like my litmus test to see if I actually know something. And especially if you do it in a form of YouTube videos, then you better have all the specifics correct or people will call you out on it. Erik also points out that it's very important to understand why when you are teaching something. I spend a lot of time on this, and a lot of people, I sometimes get shit for it. Like people, oh, just get to explaining how it works. But I think it's extremely important to understand why you are learning something in order to be motivated to do it, because learning is hard and you need to have a clear sense of why you are spending this time. Otherwise you will get bored, or like, just, oh, why am I doing this? And you will feel like your motivation falling. Pedro Martins, who has been on the FunFun forum since the start, he talks about a quote about from Richard Feynman that says, if you can't explain a concept to a layman, you don't understand it well enough. And I think that is so succinct. By the way, I just have to give you a tip about, hang on, Rich Feynman names. This is completely different. This is unrelated, but this video from Richard Feynman, a little small interview with Richard Feynman, where he talks about how names and knowledge are not the same, but people tend to confuse the two. It's just 2 minutes long. You should really check it. It's just so insightful. This man, he's amazing. But that's not what we were talking about. We were talking about teaching programming, and Pedro puts it very succinctly. He says that define what you want to teach, what concepts, understand those concepts to the deepest level, and then understand the why of those concepts. And when you've done that, you should identify the target audience, and then you should identify analogies and common references amongst the target audience. Like, how can you bridge the knowledge gap using knowledge that they know? Like, what are their knowledge, and how can you build on top of it? And it also makes a point that explaining something that's mainly like an empathic, is that how we say it? Empathic job. You need to understand someone and put yourself into the other person's mind and skill, and then follow from there. And Pedro also said, like, we have such amazing people on the forum. Really, really fine people. Pedro worked alongside Linda Lucas when at Codem Academy. I did not know this. And if you don't know who Linda is, she wrote this. It's Hello Ruby, but it's Hey Ruby because it's in Swedish. And it's a children's book to teach children programming. And it's so cool. It has like characters, the snow leopard and the firefox and the penguin, and it's so nice. I really like, such a nice approach to teaching programming, and I like getting people, like children, excited and introduced to it. And Code Academy is also like such a great project to bring to the world. Like, it's I tend to point people there when people ask, how do I get started with programming? So it's like, we have such nice people. Stefan talks about using ingredients, like a recipe as an analogy for explaining algorithms. And then he plays around a little bit with, what if we create, like, used to do this, to create a muffin class with a constructor with some white flour and baking powder and salt properties, and then having methods with preheat oven and butter pan and mixing bowl. And Valis then points out that that's a good and interesting idea, that analogies sounds like a good teaching tool, but he points out that jumping from like a recipe to a written class, to class and functions, like, it's a very big jump for most beginners. And Vladimir even points out that introducing object-oriented programming is probably something that you should stay away completely from when you are introducing a new programming, because that is actually an abstraction on top of programming, where we use that to organize code and like compose things together. And that makes me think about the fact that object orientation is, often we kind of feel like, oh, we're writing object-oriented code for the benefit